Hey guys, Scott from Fright Props here, and today we're going to be taking a look at amplifying the output of a fog machine using an air amplifier, also sometimes called an air vortex. Let me give you a quick overview of what we have set up here. So I have air coming in from our compressor here at the top, going in through our regulator, currently running at 60 psi. The air then travels down into our three-way solenoid valve. We'll be turning that on and off with our Peekaboo Junior, and then continues on to the air amplifier. We have our Peekaboo Junior controller here, and we have the remote for our fog machine, which we've hacked to control the manual button using one of the relay outputs on the Peekaboo. If you need a tutorial on how to do that, you can check out a video that we did earlier. Now, the way that the air amplifier works, you can see inside there are a number of holes. And what's going to happen is that air is going to come into the amplifier here, and it's going to shoot out of all those holes in this direction, away from the fog machine. That's going to pull the fog from the fog machine, as well as a lot of ambient air in from this area here, and shoot it out at many times the volume on the other side. That's going to give us a larger and longer blast of fog from the fog machine than we would get if we just were using the fog machine straight. All right, so as I mentioned earlier, we already have our fog remote hacked with the button interfaced to the second relay output on our Peekaboo. We just have the two wires going to C and NO on that relay terminal. Now we need to wire up the solenoid, which we're using to control the air to our air vortex with relay output 1. So let's go ahead and wire that up. This is a 12-volt solenoid, so we're just going to follow the diagram in the manual for the Peekaboo for any 12-volt device. First thing we have to do is install a jumper wire from the positive of the trigger terminal over to the common of the first relay output. That's going to bring our power over to that relay output because we want to power the solenoid through the power that's coming into the Peekaboo so that we don't have to run a separate power supply. We have our jumper wire installed now. You can use pretty much any piece of scrap wire for this jumper wire, just connecting those two terminals. Next, we're going to take the two wires from the solenoid. We're going to wire the positive wire into the NO terminal of that first relay, and we're going to wire the negative wire into the negative or ground terminal on the trigger input. All right, so our solenoid is wired to output 1. Our fog machine is wired to output 2. We can go ahead and power everything up and give it a test program. Now, before we program the unit, a couple notes about positioning of the vortex. This nozzle here is where the fog is actually going to come out of the fog machine. It gets very hot, and you actually don't want to press the vortex directly against that nozzle. Not only because you don't want this to get too hot for safety concerns, but also because it'll kind of stifle the fog. You want the chance for the fog to kind of shoot out and develop into nice fog before it gets sucked in by the vortex. You also want to make sure that you line up your input with the fog nozzle. If I were just to set it here on the table, there's a good deal of distance vertically between the output of the fog machine and the input of the vortex. So you could design a little board or something and zip tie this to it. I have a piece of foam that I'm going to use just to set it at the right height, and then we'll go ahead and test all this before we attach a hose to the end and show how it would work in an actual application. All right, so our controller is powered on, our fog machine is powered on and ready to go. I've used this piece of foam that just kind of happens to be at the right height to situate the air amplifier. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do this for a long-term solution, but it works just for our quick demo here. And we can go ahead and program our Peekaboo Junior. So what we're going to want to do, if you haven't programmed a Peekaboo before, they're very simple. It's all done in real time on the controller. We're just going to hit record, then hit our outputs in the sequence we want them to go off, and then hit record again to save that program. We're going to hit record. I'm going to hit 2 to have the fog machine generate some fog, and then press 1 to blast it. All right, and we have a recording. We can press the 2 or play button on the Peekaboo Junior to test it again. Now, it might not look like much in this demo setup here, but let's go ahead and install a piece of hose onto the air amplifier and put that into, say, a steam pipe type prop that you might be making for a haunted house. And then we'll show how this improves the function of the fog machine in a prop type situation like that. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be installing some hose onto this amplifier. To do that, we're going to be using 1.5-inch inner diameter hose. The outer diameter of our amplifier here is 1.5 inches. We're just going to want to look at which direction those little holes inside are facing. That's the direction the air is going to flow. So we're just going to fit our hose onto the amplifier. It fits nice and snugly, so that shouldn't be a problem with any air leaks. You could put some tape around here to really hold it on nicely, or anything else you might be able to figure out. We do offer two types of amplifiers. This is the hose mount style. Comes with these 1.5 inch flanges here on each side for connecting a hose like this to. The other is called a panel mount, which comes with a threaded kind of a nut that you can use to mount the actual amplifier to a surface like a piece of metal or wood. All right, so that was a quick look at using an air amplifier to create a blast of fog from a fog machine. As always, go ahead and leave a comment on this video if you have any questions, or send us an email at sales@frightprops.com. Thanks.